All right, but you arrive at the table. Which of you is going to be trying to lead this conversation?
I believe it is me setting up.
All right.
Yeah.
Vertstat, you approach the table, and there is a portly, uh, middle-aged man who's got like a nice, solid double chin, sitting there with very over-the-top clothing. He's got like the puffy sleeves with stripes. He's got a hat that's a little bit too big for his head with some very garish feathers coming out of it. And he sort of looks up at you from his spectacles and says, and he looks at you and goes, Are you here to sign for the hunt?
I am indeed.
He doesn't really nod, he more warbles, but he looks down and he goes, um, and which noble will you be assigned to?
Well, I believe you have the wrong idea. Uh, I'm actually not going to be operating with a noble. I have a prearranged group.
He looks up and he frowns, um, and he kind of like leans a little bit in his chair to look at the group behind you and lets out a before leaning back fully onto his seat, and he says, "It's I should have you know that the tournament rules dictate that only a noble is allowed to compete for actually bringing down the beast."
I see, I see. So even if we were to bring down the beast, we would not get paid.
Correct, but you can, if a noble is willing to take you on, I suppose, work as a scout party or as part of the hunting group to disable the beast so that the proper huntsman might claim the kill. But no, we cannot have just anyone being able to claim the prize for the winnings. It would be, well, it would just be we just don't run that kind of business here. We're not some wild group of ruffians allowing brigands and cheats to wander in here.
Question, Sotek.
Go for it.
So I'm an elf.
Uh-huh.
My father was an eagle rider.
Uh-huh.
Can I be construed as an elf noble?
That would depend a lot on the person you would be asking.
Hmm.
One way to find out.
I'm not sure they'd count it anyways, though.
True.
He sort of leans back in his chair and he looks up frowning and he goes, if you do not have a noble patron, I could try and assign you to one, I suppose, or you could go look for one yourself.
Wait, noble patron. Ah, yes. So we were.
Vertstad, who is going to do the final shot? The patron has to make the final shot.
Is that true, Sotek?
The man looks up and kind of like squints his eye and says, or he could assign a champion, of course, to make the shot for him if he's not predicated to acts of noble violence, but he would need to turn in an official signed waiver.
Really, you'd need a waiver from a noble so important that he can't even make it to Jettenberg.
He gives you kind of a somewhat irritated look, and he goes, do you know how many people today have already tried to sign in scribbled mud, trying to claim that they are a champion for someone that's not here?
Very well. That's fair. Let me talk among my compatriots, and we will decide what to do.
He gives the four of you a fairly suspicious glare, but shoos you away from his table.
Okay. So as we group up again, I will say, so we need a noble, or someone willing to pose as a noble.
No, that should be pretty fine. I'm pretty sure your idea would work.
You lot know anyone that fit the bill?
Yep, I don't think he's generally known for his prowess with a weapon, and I think Verve would like to get the kill, or whatever. I will look to Verve questioningly.
Well, it wouldn't hurt.
Because,
Okay.
I mean, if we got in contact with him, I'm sure Hugo would be all up for the publicity. Publicity, that's the word.
And how long do you think that'll take?
I will glance towards the tent entrance. How long do you think it'll take for them to get all this worked out? It's a hunt, you can't leave early.
You can't?
That'd be cheating. And the nobles frown very much on cheating. Isn't that
Yeah.
right, Rolf?
Roland.
Roland!
I was just reading a message from Sotek. What'd you say?
Cheating! Nobles don't like it, leaving early for a hunt. Everyone has to go at the same time, right?
Oh, obviously.
That's what they say.
So, Verstadt will say, so as I see it, we have two courses of options. We can somehow, three courses of options, actually. So we can somehow claim that we are agents of, you may not know this, Roland, but we are, how should I put this? We work for a man named Anders von Brunner. And he carries some weight, and maybe enough to allow us entry. Second, we could prop Verve here as a noble, which is not too far, as I say. She's quite regal looking. Three, we find a different noble willing to sponsor us, but not interested in the pay that much.
Would I be familiar with this Von Brunner they brought up?
Yeah, so I'll just tell you who he is real quick. Or tell you what you would know. So the Von Bruners, to local lore, you know them very much as a family that controls a really, really scary and famous, almost a fortress at the southern tip of the Hager Cribs, known as Sterlich Manor. And the Von Bruners have been there for a really long time. And the current lord of the family who runs the house or runs the manor is considered a graf, but it's basically a fortress. However, there have been a lot of rumors around town lately because supposedly one of the Von Bruners has recently died. And their family has kind of an ill reputation among the masses because not the current Graf of the Von Bruners, but his father, who's been dead for a while now, there are a lot of rumors that he was a cultist and was involved in darker powers, and his son has been very aggressive in showing support for things to clean up his reputation, which has had good and ill effects. Like, on the good side of it, he tends to be very supportive in like helping local temples or charging out to fight against like notable groups of beastmen or something. But on the downside, if there's like a bad rumor of some kind of corruption being in the area, he hires witch hunters in like a millisecond, which has led to some really ugly scenarios in Jettenberg because witch hunters are not friendly people. And they have been invited to the area multiple times because of him. That being said, you don't know any of the Von Bruners in particular. They're a fairly secretive family, so you don't know of an Anders, but you don't know any of their first names. The only one that most people know of is, if you say Von Brunner, they assume you're talking about the Graf, but you're pretty sure his name is not Anders.
Von Brunner's. That really turned some heads, anyway.
I will turn to Roland and say, think it'll be enough?
If you could get the Graf signature, almost certainly.
Verve, you've got a great memory, right?
I like to think I do.
Didn't we get introduced to Lord Hugo Crust? The really rich man. Shouldn't he be some kind of noble? I don't think they give merchants the title Lord.
True.
Roland, you're familiar with Hugo. He would technically count as a noble in this scenario. He's not a noble born, but they would have no issue with him participating.
So he would probably be the closest person to get to being here in town.
'Cause
Excellent idea, Mr. Rist.
Because I'm not traipsing back through those woods to go see Anders.
No, of course, I was thinking about forging his signature or something, but that's... No,
That's
no,
a
you had a
crime,
better
and I
idea.
am a watchman. Remember that.
Of
I got
course.
Through
my
the
eye on you,
woods?
Verstadt.
You mean just south of town, right?
The chap we know is off on a expedition. He's not the Graf. One of the extended family, I believe.
Not sure if that'd work then. I know the Graf, his signature would turn heads, but I don't know about this other one.
I really don't want to turn heads. That puts a target on our backs. But Hugo could do.
Hugo sounds like the best choice. I had forgotten there, briefly, but Hugo sounds like the best choice.
Is
Or we can
Hugo
find
also
some-
local?
Hugo's not from Jettenberg, but Hugo technically lives in Altdorf these days, but he's known around Jettenberg because he is the one who bought the Bloody Hounds and basically moved them out of town, which earned him quite a bit of brownie points with most of the high class in Jettenberg, because we've talked about the Bloody Hounds.
So from what my character knows, it sounds like Hugo would work considerably better than this Anders whoever.
Yeah, Hugo's a known entity in town.
I more assuredly point towards the group. Hugo, do it. That I'm sure of.
Verstadt will nod.
Ah, good. Last option's always in some lonely, and I will look at the more disadvantaged nobles still in this tent. Individuals who may lack a group, and just kind of tag along with them. Not sure if they'll pay the full, reward if we do win, though.
That's true. So Verstadt will approach the counter again with the double chin man.
I will stop Verstadt.
I stop.
Verstadt, you need the signature.
I thought he'd give us a piece of paper and then we come back with the signature.
This is a noble. The nobles don't ask for paperwork. They write something down and say, do it. And then everyone else hops.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's go talk to Hugo then.
Does anyone remember how to get in contact with Hugo? That'll be the real question.
Fuck if I remember, man.
I
That-
do.
Yeah, we were meeting him up, leaving a message for him at the library.
Close.
Oh,
They could get
yeah.
it to him.
Oh yeah, that is. Yes, that would be a viable option. Yes.
You guys are good.
Sotek, playing the "It's been months since I told you this. Does anyone remember?"
I was gonna tell you. I just wanted to see if y'all could remember. All right, y'all can make your way easily without any issues to the Jettenberg Academy. As you're leaving the camp, the four of you together, especially with Roland among you, do draw a notable amount of eyes, just because of Roland's sheer size. And you do catch some rather comical comments about there being a halfling and a giant in the same party, but nobody seems to really care about you that much.
So on the way, I will say to Roland, so how old did you say you were? You've got to be pushing 25, 30?
Also, take your pills. They're not
Me?
pills, but take your medicine.
I need to boil it.
Oh, that's right. Do that soon.
All right.
Or there will be vague consequences.
What season is it right now?
Y'all are in late summer. Late summer, early fall.
You know, Verdstat,
Well,
would it be
my
good for you to go?
16th winter's coming up.
16, you say? Of course. Right. 16.
He's a grizzled 16, but it is 16.
I pause my interruption and look at Roland. How? 16.
16.
Oh, what do they feed you people here?
I'm sure halflings would love to know.
Whatever I can get my mitts on.
Get the respect you're due, wouldn't you, Wrist?
What if I was... Oh, I will get a dreamy look in my eye. 4 feet tall? Oh yeah, that'd show 'em.
Wrist, you do notice that unfortunately, despite his immense height, this lad is like one of the skinniest people you've ever seen. He's a string bean.
I
Do
do
need a
have
good
over
feeding,
40
though.
strength and toughness, mind you, so there's some
It's true.
lean muscle there, too.
You've got some lean muscles, but you don't have a lot. You don't have, as far as a halfling concerned, halflings are concerned. You're basically a skeleton.
Yeah.
Oh, so starved looking.
Maybe
When did
that's
you
the
last
secret.
eat?
It's not by choice. That's for sure.
Well, if height is based off how much you eat, then I'll be a halfling all my life.
All right, y'all make it to the academy with little issue, and if you talk to
I
one of
stay very far away from it.
that's fair. Wrist, Vertstat, and Roland can enter the academy without any issues, and if you just the moment you just even mention Hugo, some servants like almost immediately get out some paper to address a formal letter to him about whatever it is you're wanting to communicate.
All right. I will take up the pen or the ink and quill and begin to write a letter to Hugo Cross.
Okay, what are you going to tell him?
Good question. How to summarize it? Dear Mr. Cross, coming from your associates in Juttenberg, we require a noble patron in order to enter the hunt. We are looking for a particular amount of money from the hunt, as it could be greatly beneficial to the work when we return. Also, we have found a horse.
Okay. Is that it?
Also, we have found a horse.
I know that was the main mission, now it's sidetracked, but that is the letter.
Okay. It gets sealed up, and a younger man is very quickly selected, who changes from his robes to more appropriate attire for running, and he immediately dispatches with great haste. Y'all have a little bit of time to kill.
Oh,
Thank
I
you,
wonder if they
lad.
can brew some tea.
They can.
Master Wrist,
if you
I
pay
never
them.
knew you were big into tea.
Oh, I'm not. I'd like you to not vomit and complain about how weak and fatigued you are as we walk through the woods.
Oh, yes, I do suppose that would help. And I call it to one of the people behind the desk. We're at a library, right? I don't suppose they can boil water.
It's more of an
I think-
academy. Like there are
Okay.
students and stuff around, but there are people who work there that work as like attendants.
Okay, I will approach one of the attendants. I know this is sort of outlandish, but is there any chance you could boil some water for me?
He'll give you kind of a weird look, and he says, "Well, this isn't really that just boiled water? Are you looking? If you want food, this isn't that kind of place.
No, I know it's not. It's for a medical condition actually.
He kind of
Really, just
nods
some
and
boiled
says,
water would be great.
he nods and says, "Oh, I could get you a boiled drink, but it may. I'll have to take payment to get everything I would need to go pick it up."
Of course. What do you need?
He kind of looks at you for a moment, then he says, "Silver."
Very well. I hand him a silver.
Okay, he takes it and
Wrist chuckles.
nods to you and runs off.
I give a disgusted look as he runs out.
Verdstat,
Yes.
have you given up on haggling altogether?
Well, I thought maybe if I messed it up, he wouldn't get me the water at all. So I'm learning. Wrist, I'm learning.
You realized you
A damn
got,
silver for that?
you got boiled water for a penny. Just today.
It's not so much what you're asking for, it's where and of who and how expedited the process is. We're in the
There's got to
library.
be a half dozen cafes just right outside with Verve sitting there. All eager to bring you some water for the mere pittance of a penny.
We could have done that, I suppose.
Tell the people I've met, boil water for a silver, you'd get stabbed in the gut.
This is rather
You've got a
embarrassing.
lot of people offering you boiled water.
Poor Birdstat's just getting browbeat. The young man arrives not too long later with basically a little, just a small, a decent sized little pot of water for you, and he even brought you an empty cup.
Thank you, young man. But I do not tip him.
You don't need to. You already did. He merrily moves on with his day.
Just gonna accept that, and I start mixing in the medicine.
All right, you have taken your medicine. All is well.
Oh, we can probably wait outside for the messenger. I don't think we'll need to be right here, and I don't know what Verve is up to with people heckling her.
At least let me finish the water, and I will gesture to the glass.
You could probably take it with you. It's not like Verve is sitting super far away.
The hell you need it so bad for, anyway?
It's not like you just bought the pot and cup as well.
I paid so much for it. I feel like I did.
'Cause you did.
Alright, let's go.
All right, you walk outside and you do see Verve is essentially just a little ways down the street. Because there are some notable cafes around here and some stands and stuff, and Verve's just kind of hanging out.
Man, they have cafes in Warhammer. Okay.
I wouldn't, not by our definition of cafes, but there are places where there are people who specialize in selling like certain kind of baked goods or things they import from just on the outside of town from like certain farms and stuff.
Yeah, of course.
Where they sell meats, but you know, depending on how much you're willing to pay, some of them are very questionable materials. But that being said, Verve is just sitting outside of one, and Verve, you see your companions approaching, and you do notice that Verdstat has an entire pot of water with him and a cup.
Hello,
I look
Verve.
back to make sure no one's followed us.
I raise an eyebrow and say, "What's that for?"
Well, it's my medicine, but I'd like you to believe it's that water we got a long, long time ago from the Talite woman. Or that was wine, wasn't it? Never mind. It's just
That-
water.
Verdstat had a hankering for an entire pot and a cup to go with it, and maybe some boiled water added to as an extra.
You never really think about the cafes of Jettenberg till you're right outside of one.
I will say, I hope you don't think that you're going to have that clanking around in the forest. You're going to drive whatever we're looking for away.
No, just let me finish my glass of medicine. Then we'll be good.
What kind of medicine is boiled water?
It's the stuff that he puts in the water, dear boy.
The boiled water is for some kind of herbal concoction thing.
Yes, I was told by a doctor I have anemia. I believe is the term, the medical term.
I will nod.
So you need some kind of potion for it?
Well, it's just some medicine I mixed with the water, and it's supposed to fix the anemia. I don't know much about anemia, but it's supposed to, over these multiple doses, it's supposed to fix it.
Yeah, all you have to do is make sure you aren't, how did you put it again, feasted upon again.
But I checked this morning and I didn't see any marks. I think we're staying at a good inn this time. I trust Heinrich quite a lot.
I can't believe I'm having this
One
conversation.
moment. Feasted upon?
Don't think anything of it.
It's rather hyperbolic terms. More like I got munched upon by some rats, or a bat of some sort.
I doubt it was rats. Rats would take some flesh with them.
So you got bit and no flesh came off?
Well,
I
apparently.
think it would do best for someone of your age. What age is the children in human years? I will look to Wrist of all people.
Well, I mean, I hear they're adults at 16. Most of them don't act that way, but also most of them aren't that big.
Well,
I believe the humans go by, when you're grown to big enough to be a man, you're a man.
well, I guess that meets the qualifier now, doesn't it? I wouldn't put a whole lot of thought into it. It's more I won't go into details. It's
I
probably
mean,
better
if
that
I'm
way.
going to be part of this outfit, maybe I should make sure I know what I'm dealing with.
Well,
right?
don't get nibbled on by other creatures.
You may be dealing with bed bugs, Roland. He will chuckle.
You two are weird.
Right.
After about an hour of the four of you hanging about, you do see the runner with a healthy gleam of sweat running back towards the academy.
Hello, over here.
He does stop and verves his way over to you. Verves. And he gives the letter to Vertstadt. I'm so pleased with myself.
So I unseal it. First I make sure to check the seal has not been undone.
It has not.
Okay, I break the seal and I read it.
Okay, so there are two pieces of paper. The first one is basically him saying that he says, "Wonderful job on the finding a horse. He is sure that it's a magnificent specimen, and and that he will be returning in town in he'll be back tomorrow, and if he misses you guys then he'll be back another 2 days after that. And during one of those times just hit him up, and you'll be able to find him if you just ask someone around the academy or the temple about him, because he's on business. And if you find him, he'll make sure to go with you to get the horse so he can pay for it. And then the second piece of paper, he basically says he's heard about the hunt. Try not to get yourselves killed. If you do manage to find the beast and bring it down, he was friends with one of the families that had their son killed, so he would be personally invested for one of you to put an arrow between its eyes on his behalf, and he has his signature down at the bottom.
Okay, I will read this aloud to the group and convey all that information.
So he didn't name a champion, though. just one of us.
I will read between the lines. No, nothing specific about a champion.
Hugo's name being there should be enough.